And you can always keep it the same. Things change, so you have to reinvent yourself every few years.
Yes, sir. This setup took a bit longer than we wanted it to,
Thank you.
but that's fine.
And in my case, it was just I think an accident. I have to say.
In case of what?
We were just sharing how we ended up doing cybersecurity,
Yes.
and Yaron
yeah.
was explaining that it was because of his wife. So you have to thank your wife on behalf of all of us.
And
for
she
that.
said, go to the CISSP. You have to do the CISSP. So
Is she a security professional as well?
no, she's a project manager.
Oh, that's cool.
Why did you not want to do it before she encouraged
I was
you?
a software developer before that, but then I worked a few years, and she saw that there's other opportunities out there. I was mentioning that people in the company are leaving to do security. She said, you should do the same. You should write the CISSP. So I listened to her and I did it.
So how did you start? Did you make a full commitment to transition, or was it more of a, I'm gonna slowly test maybe tiny certificates, see how I like it, and then fully commit?
So it was phased shift, right? So I worked as a developer, and at night I studied. I went to courses to learn about cybersecurity. Basically, was a course for helping to pass the CISSP. It took me about 4-5 months of studying. Then I wrote the exam. It was a very difficult exam. I remember even then wasn't even computerized. It was paper and pencil and paper. So yeah.
How many years ago was it?
18 years ago. Yeah. So I wrote it a long time ago.
How much do you think the knowledge you had prior to studying for it and your knowledge of being a software developer, how much do you think that helped you?
I think it helped me a lot because there were a few fields a few domains in the CISSP that require experience in software development, such as application security, which they already had at that time, cryptography, which was something that I was very focused on as a developer, and architecture. So 3 of the 8 fields were almost very easy. The rest I had to study a lot, like risk management, legal issues, privacy, those things that required a lot more. I did not have experience in them, so I needed to learn, focus on them a little bit more.
They seem more of like the comparison you made between the 3 you just said: application security, crypto, and I forgot the architecture. Those seem more technical. So like you had the technical side already set to go.
Yes.
But you had to kind of like study on the like social things, like the legal sides of it, right?
Yeah. So one more field is like disaster recovery, right? How do you plan for that? That's something that was new to me, right? I knew about resilience, I knew about redundancy, but when you start to get into the details of the CISSP, you start to realize that, wow, if a company does not have a disaster recovery plan, what can happen is what happened in 2001 when the Twin Towers were hit. Some companies did not have a DR, so their data was completely gone and the business was lost, right? So they had no resiliency in place, no redundancy in terms of the data centers. So that is something that I really felt was helpful to understand and prepare for such an exam. And yeah, it's a difficult certificate, but it gives you the foundations. Every individual that wants to get into information security or cybersecurity, as they call it today, has to do the CISSP.
CISSP?
Yeah,
and that's a certificate.
Yeah, it's a Certified Information Security System Professional. It's the foundational security certification.
And that is the pinnacle of the certifications that you need to get started.
It really depends on the field that you want to go. So let's say nowadays you have cloud, right? So you have Azure, Amazon, Google Cloud. If you want to be, let's say, a security architect, CISSP is not the certifications that you want. You probably want to have the Azure cloud security expert, but it has a lot of prerequisites, like courses in university, right? You cannot take Calculus 2 before you finish Calculus 1, right? So also in cybersecurity, there are certain certifications that you will find very challenging if you don't do previous certifications.
Right. Is there anything you would like to add, Mr. Chalico?
Thank you. I am a CISSP as well, but interestingly, I was on the other side of the spectrum. So the program I took at university is a program that was like forming me to be the man in the middle between users and technical people. So I was supposed to be the translator, taking requirements from users and then translating those requirements into technical requirements to people. However, as I was progressing in the university, one of my favorite topics was IT audit. I had a wonderful teacher that helped me with IT audit, an experienced IT auditor. Interestingly, a very shy guy, but immensely talented. And I started being very attracted to that. He was the one who connected me to EY in Mexico a long time ago, so that I started my career with the firm. And I started being an IT auditor. So I started paying more attention to compliance matters and risk management and legal considerations, internal control, connection to financial audit. And I started being disconnected from the technical side of things. I was not as embedded as I was into that as when I was in university. So when the time came for me to start going into what we call the information security space, before it was called cybersecurity, the CISSP was the designation to have. And I said that I was on the other side of the spectrum compared to Yaron, because when I was studying for the exam, I felt very confident on the internal control, compliance, and governance matters, and my challenge was on the technical side.
Okay.
So, but as Yaron was saying, I think that if you want to develop a career in cybersecurity, I think the CISSP should be the first aspirational designation. Something that is an advantage right now that didn't exist when Yaron and I got certified. I got certified in 2001. Right now, the same organization behind the CISSP has a new designation that is called CC.
CC.
I always forget if CC stands for Certified in Cybersecurity or Cybersecurity Certified.
The second one sounds a bit...
Maybe, but the advantage of this CC designation is that the content is a little bit lighter than the CISSP, in the end lighter. That's the first advantage. And the second one that may be the most attractive is that it doesn't require experience. So you just need to pass the exam to get the certification. So that can be an entry level designation for someone who wants to take off within the cybersecurity space. And you will need to go and see the website. It's www.isc2.org. But as far as I remember, the certification is free. So if that's correct, that's the third advantage of the certification. It is one that is lighter than the CISSP. It is one that does not require experience, and it may be free. So
it may be free.
Yeah.
How much was the cost of CISSP?
That's a very good question. I don't remember, to be frank with you, but I think it should be in the order of...
it was about $600.
Yeah.
And I paid it out of pocket. My employer didn't know that I was trying to transition to another field. It was about $600, but that was in 2006, right? It's probably no more than $800 right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
and usually employers pay for this, and they also pay for training. So they will send you on a boot camp, which is 1 week. That helps, but what really helps is practicing questions. So for me, I had a bank of 5,000 questions that I collected from many sources, from people, from books, and I just wrote and answered many questions, as many as I could, and that prepares you to become very quick at answering those questions, and also it helps you learn while you do it, right? And so when I wrote the exam, I think it's still 5 hours. As I mentioned earlier, it was
5 hours of pen and paper.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
one problem that I had, I shifted the column, so every answer was shifted by 1 circle.
Oh.
And so my last hour, I had to fix the entire column of, I think, 50 questions, and it was a big pain.
Oh, sure.
And then you don't, not unlike today, when you finish the exam, you go to, let's say, Pearson VUE, and you write an online exam with a proctor, and at the end you get the result immediately, either you pass or you fail, right? Back then, you would have to wait 6 weeks for a letter, for an email. So everybody I asked in that room said, I think I failed for sure, I failed. You live with this feeling that you have failed the exam, and because it's just non-stop questions coming at you, business cases or case studies that you have to analyze. Some of them can be 5-6 pages long. And even in the online version today, now you would read a business case and you would have to answer. And those are the hardest questions.
So you had to read a new business case for each of those 50 questions, or was it a business case and then 10 questions and then another business case?
It's a case study. Let's say they talk about a small company, and then there are developers, and they work with QA, and then there is an administrator, and I'm trying to remember one of the case studies that were there. And one of the questions was, what is wrong with the access that is provided to the employees? And the answer was that there is no separation of duties. So the administrator was able to the software developers were able to administer their own servers. That was in the case study, right? And it wasn't obvious, but as you read the question and the answers, you figure out, why do these developers have access to configure the server? They're not allowed to do that, right? They can only do it in development environment, and they're doing it in production. So that was, I think that's a problem, and that was one of the options. So that was the one question that I clearly remember, even after all those years.
Yeah, some questions stick to us, and that was more on the technicals, on the 3 topics you said, like the application security and those topics. What can you remember from an average disaster recovery question?
That's a good question, and I am just chuckling because I took the exam almost 23 years ago. I was even thinking that I think I paid $250 in 2001, so it was significantly cheaper. It was 6 hours long. So it's a tough one. I think, being frank with you, I don't remember a very specific question. I would be lying. But what I remember, and that's just in line with Yaron was explaining, when you're preparing for this type of exams, it's not only the knowledge, it's how the questions are asked. Mm-hmm. There's a very unique style. And interestingly, I will say that every single one of these exams has its own personality. And that personality is mandated or is embedded into the exam by the writers of the questions. There's different associations that have different certification exams, and behind the preparation of the exams, there's a group of people, volunteers that are willing to help assemble these questions, and you can notice what's the style when you go through these exams. Mm-hmm. So that's why it is very important, as Yaron was saying, to go for questions, databases of questions that you can use and practice, because it is not only the knowledge, it's how is it that you are going to be discovering those small things that are going to be hidden mm-hmm. in the questions themselves. Because in some cases, the questions can be like, you're presented with a case, and then the question is, you have these 4 choices. Which one is the less adequate? Mm-hmm. So all of them are right, but you need to identify which is the one that is the less adequate, given the circumstances of the case you are presented with.
Is there an objective way to distinguish, to say this one is less adequate than the other ones?
You are expected to be presented with that. I mean, when you go to these exams, you're expected to be presented with those elements. I mean, what's the piece that will give you that objectivity mm-hmm. on deciding which of those is the right one to select? But that can be tricky. And again, I think that setting up your mind for those exams is crucial. And there's something that I think can be, it may sound contradictory, but all of these exams require experience in order for you to get the certification. I think it's 5 years in the case of the CISSP, right?
So if you don't have 5 years, you can pass, you can write the CISSP. If you pass it, they will grant you the right to obtain the certificate once you complete 5 years.
Exactly. You will keep the result. It will remain valid for 5 years.
Yeah.
So that you can get the experience and then apply for the certificate.
How would you get that experience?
Working. But before I go there, what I want to say is that if you are very experienced and you have not gone through the exam, chances are that your own styles and your own habits and the methodologies you follow will bias how you respond. Mm-hmm. And when you go for these exams, you need to think from a more, I will say, agnostic perspective, not mm-hmm. biased by a specific framework or by a specific technology. I do remember, and I am trying to juggle with my memory in order to remember this question, but I do remember a question related to disaster recovery where I always said and thought that the response was, I will say a letter, B, and then they explained to me, no, it's A. And I said, why? And that was just because I was looking at that specific element from a preventative posture. And the person I was just discussing this with was looking at that from a detective posture. Mm-hmm. So just prevention and detection, we're making of one single question something completely different. So that's what I think is important to say. Now, going back to your question, what's the experience you need to have? You need to have working experience in the multiple domains the CISSP covers. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily in all of them, but in a portion of them. Now, the advantage you have, and please, Yaron, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do remember that it's not only working experience in the cybersecurity space. If you had experience in related topics or related fields, some years of that experience can be taken to replace the years of experience in cybersecurity.
But your software development experience,
for
right?
example, if you did some work in IT operations, for example, that counts as well. If you happen to be an IT auditor, as I was, when I took the exam, that counts as well. And even degrees are valid, right? Like academic degrees and masters, so I think you can take off a year or something.
They didn't grant me any time or any experience time for my degree, even though it is computer science and math. But because I was a software developer working in the security field, in the cryptography field, that counted, right? So they asked for your resume, and then when you pass the exam, there is what's known as a validation period, or what's the word for that? But they need to check, it's almost like a background check. You need an endorsement from somebody, and they also go and check with your employers, your previous employers. Did Yaron work at Seneca, for example, and then they validate the experience. Just like any company, when they hire new employees, they do that. And so, they do check if you have the relevant experience, and if not, it's not an issue. You just go, you have to work in the field for a few years, and then you get the certificate.
Right. But if you have an experience in another field, it counts, like software development, but not fully, right? They shave off some of it. And someone starting out in the field may want to get straight to the point, start with cybersecurity so they can maximize the time that they have. But then that comes with the dilemma of you need the degree, certificate to get a job, but then to get the certificate you need experience. So how would you think one would navigate, especially students nowadays who are just in college and university right now, and especially with the market nowadays, it's not even being in a top university, when it comes to co-op time, you need to apply for co-ops. It's not the guarantee anymore that I'm going to find a job or a co-op easily. So how would you think one would navigate that? How can they prepare themselves? Maybe do some side projects? What are your suggestions?
I think if I think, for example, of the type of qualities I would be looking for when we are looking for people, I think that looking for a certification in an entry-level position is a mistake as a recruiter, because that's something you will not find. I want to find someone that knows the concepts, at least basic concepts. If we are talking about someone that will just start their career with us at the firm, and they want to start from an entry-level position, I want someone who knows some of the concepts, who can understand basic considerations of networking, basic considerations of cybersecurity elements and fundamentals. And I would be paying more attention to soft skills than hard skills. And a friend of mine was recently correcting me and saying those soft skills should be called power skills. And I am talking about skills that let you work in a team successfully, communicate successfully, and have always the openness to learn. I think that something that is somehow alleviating this chicken and egg situation that you were describing, should we go for the certificate first, or should we get the experience first? But forgetting both of them, I need the other. So I think that solutions like the CC designation from the ISC squared is trying to resolve that issue. Again, if you're a student and if you happen to be interested in cybersecurity and you want to go for that, CC is one designation that you can consider. It's not the only one, There are some others. There's Security Plus from CompTIA. There's Cybersecurity Fundamentals from ISACA. I think one advantage that CC has is that it is like connected to one of the, if not the most respected certification in cybersecurity, which is the CISSP. So I think that gives to that, I will say, smaller designation a good reputation and a solid base, solid foundations. And the other advantages I mentioned, the fact that it is free and the fact that it doesn't require experience, makes of it something powerful. So I would encourage a young student that is interested in going for cybersecurity to have a look at what this certification offers and see if that is something that is capturing their attention so that they can go for that one. And with time, I think that once you get the experience, then you can go for the CISSP designation. Now, if I go back to what I was responding at the beginning, and if I think of me as a hiring manager, and I am looking for young people to join our forces, and I find a student that has a program that is connected to what we do, that has some basic knowledge of cybersecurity and technology the way we need it, and that has the power skills that I mentioned, and in addition to that is certified with something like this, I think that's very powerful.
Awesome. Sometimes when we as students get into the university, we're so kind of bombarded with assignments and tasks that we need to do just necessarily for the courses, and sometimes it's by our own fault. We take too many courses per semester because we want to graduate faster and get into the workforce, that we don't have enough time to do maybe one project a semester or get a certificate like CC to prepare ourselves better, right? What would you say about that? Would you say try to reduce your load and
No, I would say concentrate on the program that you signed up for, but try to find courses that would advance your career ambition. So if you, let's say, doing engineering, but in your mind you know that you want to go into cybersecurity, look for those courses in university, and nowadays they offer them. When I was in university, they didn't offer any courses in information security or cybersecurity. They were purely, you either do software engineering or you do math courses as part of the program, the computer science program. There was no structure in place as they have today. So as an elective, I took languages courses, right? But if I were a student now, as an elective, I would choose something that would help me get into the field of cybersecurity, right? The other thing to know and understand about the field is extremely wide, right? You cannot be a specialist in all domains. You can be, like Carlos said, IT auditor, and you're very, very focused on IT audit, and that's what you do. Or you can specialize in application security. And for that, for each specialization, there are different requirements. So if I will talk about myself, as I mentioned, I was a software developer. That really helped me understand the whole foundation, or it gives you a strong foundation for application security, because you're able to speak the same language as the developers, and they respect you more when you show technical competency and understanding of what they do. But at the same time, you have to be able to speak to executives, to the CISO, right, to director level management, and explain to them the actual issues with the products, right, with the applications, right? They don't want to hear about technical stuff. This is not it. A CISO, although needs to be technical, they don't really deal with technical work anymore. It's management, right? So they need the people who are able to speak with the engineers, but also are able to speak with the business analysts, project managers. And that's something that takes experience. You can't really learn in a course in 6 weeks, right? You have to do the work in order to be able to develop those skills. And it's a journey, right? But my advice would be specialize. Don't do a certificate just because you want to be in cybersecurity. Therefore, and this is why you want to write a CISSP. The CISSP is a very solid foundation, but start specializing in a pyramid structure and find the area where you thrive the most. Right. So for me, it was in the technical area, right? For other people, would be in administration, be in system administration, right? So they naturally they would gravitate towards network security and they would focus there. Other people come from risk and compliance area, right? So they would focus on risk management and they would grow in that field. But the key to, in my opinion, is specialization. Especially today, people are looking for specialists, and it takes time to become specialized.
Yeah.
So put the time in and specialize.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and perhaps in addition to that, I think networking is important. And let me just see how I am trying to connect the dots. When I was your age, and I was just completing university, I started working very young, and I tried to jump into the IT space before completing university. That's because the model we had in Mexico at the time allowed me to do that. I was going to university every day, Monday to Friday, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. That was my every day in school. So I had the first hours of the day available to do something else, basically to work. So I had a job from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. I was going there every single day. I was the one in charge of IT for a medium-sized company, like the IT administrator, and I started just gaining experience and doing stuff. So when I completed my university and I got my degree, I had already a couple of years of experience doing IT stuff. So when I joined TY at the time, I was able to skip a couple of levels and not start from an entry-level position. And I was somehow familiar with some things, but I have to say that I do acknowledge as well that it is tough to make the decisions you have to make when you're that young. And if I say that I knew that I was going to be a cybersecurity specialist when I was in university, I would be lying. I didn't know that. I mean, it was just happening. But something I think I did well was that I started to work earlier. Now, I understand the Canadian model is different. And universities here have very strange schedules. So one day you have to go in the morning, another day you have to go in the afternoon. So thinking of having a regular job with that, I think it's complicated.
Yes.
So putting that in context, I think that going back to what I was saying at the beginning, networking, I think that's relevant. So when you're a student, I think that if you happen to be interested in something like cyber and you want to know more, there's associations that you can be part of, and there's groups that you can approach. So without having to make the commitment of a full-time job, you can start approaching those groups and you can start even volunteering. For example, the ISC Squared, which is the the association behind the CISSP, they do have a very strong and active chapter in Toronto. So you can be just close to them, and if you want, you can even become a volunteer for them. Same thing with ISACA, that has a strong chapter in Toronto, another association that is very well versed on cybersecurity matters. There's TASC, the Toronto Area Security Clutch, there's DEFCON Toronto, there's CyberX, and many of these organizations are always looking for people willing to volunteer, and that can help you be closer to the type of people you will be working with in the future. And that can help you identify mentors and people that can just give you advice on how you can start shaping your career without needing to have the I will say, rigidness of having a job schedule that you have to attend every single day. So I would recommend to try to look for that. If you start to have some interest in something specific, try to identify communities, professional communities, that are connected to those topics that you're interested on, so that you can start being part of that. So that when you need to make the jump into looking for a co-op or looking for a professional position, it will be, I will say, less challenging, because I understand how challenging it is, mainly in these times, which is a little bit more complicated because of the financial situation.
Yeah, I really liked both of your answers in terms of finding the path, both finding your passion and specializing early, and trying to network with people, finding associations as well. I also want to make, this answers one of the two follow-up questions I had before the break. The other one was, you were talking about entry-level jobs. I just want to make sure I got the point perfectly, and then we could move on to another topic. When talking about entry-level positions, what I got was soft skills, being able to communicate, and power skills, as you said. And then the other one was knowing the topics, but if you don't necessarily have the, what I got was, if you don't necessarily have the how-to of like, this is how it's done, that's fine. As long as you know the concepts, the high-level view of it, like you've read you know the definitions, and you're eager, that's a good starting point for an entry-level job. Would you say that's correct?
I would say yes. From my perspective, hard skills are like here when you're starting, and I expect power skills to be here.
Mm-hmm.
With time, I expect the two of them to be balanced, and with time, I will even see the high skills going further. And the power skills will just remain and will just mature. As you become a more, I will say, seasoned professional, you find a way to be more effective in communications, you find a way to be more effective in working with teams, you understand how to deliver the value you need to deliver and how to get the value you expect from others. So that's on the power skill side. But the technicals will be growing. I have always thought that it is easier to have someone with attitude than with aptitude. What I mean is that someone that has the willingness to learn and do stuff with us is better than having someone that is very smart and has all the knowledge in their mind already, but not the willingness to work in a team.
It's
that's my
like
impression.
having that bias when you're taking the exam.
Yeah.
You already have that idea form. It's better to be agnostic, as you said, and be open, right?
Yeah, that's how I see it.
You can be very smart, you can solve problems, very challenging problems, but maybe you're not resilient, or you're not creative, or you're simply unmotivated, right? And that affects the quality of work that you do, the people around you notice it. So balance is very important, especially as you get more senior in the career, right? I would say for starting the career, if you want to go to, and I'm just going to focus on application security, you need to get your hands dirty, meaning you have to write code, because application security is written in code.
Mm-hmm.
It is, you can read about it, you can watch videos about it, but at the end it's about, have you written software enough to understand its behavior under certain conditions, right? Are you able to talk to software developers? Are you able to read the documentation or help them document? So you don't necessarily, to get into application security, you don't necessarily have to start in cybersecurity. But it's important to learn frameworks like React, JavaScript. Know the technology, that's what I'm trying to say. You don't need to be a specialist in the technology, but you need to know the technology that helps build good web applications, right? And that is a never-ending journey. Learning in the IT field, cybersecurity in particular, is a never-ending learning journey. So if I were to hire people now, I would expect them to be motivated, and one of their main goals are to continuous learning. Right, whatever it is, if you want to learn AI, machine learning, it's very important that continuous learning happens after university. Because a lot of people, what they do, they finish university, they think, oh, I have a degree in computer science now, I'm good for the next 25 years. No, every 5 years, you gotta reinvent yourself. Every 5 years, that's what happened to me. So you gotta find another way to learn a new skill, move to a new job, and develop in that area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we can use the fact that you brought up application security as a segue to talk about application security. That I know that's your field of speciality. How does application security fall under the umbrella of information technology and cybersecurity, and alongside of cloud computing and those other things?
So application security is one domain in the CISSP. Right, there's about 8 or 7 domains. Application security is one of them. Before the cloud, which was about 10 years ago,
More or less, yeah.
there were web applications have been around since the early 2000, 2004. This is when BMO and all the other banks, all the banks started to come out with online banking, right? But it was hosted locally, on-premise. All the servers were hosted locally. Application security was an issue there because of the frameworks that were used to build them. The vulnerabilities were just being discovered. If you're familiar with the OWASP,
Yes.
right? OWASP just started towards the end of 2000, and there was no cloud really. Banks didn't move into the cloud. They just started that move in the last 5 years. So in terms of application security, I don't think that moving an application to the cloud is necessarily more risk. If the application is vulnerable on premise, it's going to be vulnerable on the cloud, right? The only difference is that when you move to cloud is now you don't manage the infrastructure, right? Someone else is doing it for you, and they take care of the infrastructure security. However, they cannot take care of your software. That's something that the cloud client needs to bring to the table. And so finding the right specialist is a challenge because, as I mentioned, they need to have software development background, but also security background in security. And that's been a challenge for me when I look for people, is to find somebody who's a previous software developer and also focused a lot on cybersecurity.
Right. You also mentioned the rise of OWASP. And for someone starting out, a student starting out, aspiring professionals in this career, you hear a lot about OWASP Foundation, OWASP Top 10. Take a look at it, close look at it, how it changes over the years. For those of viewers, if you have any, who don't know what that is, what can you tell us about it and its significance in cybersecurity?
So the OWASP is a non-for-profit organization. The acronym, I believe, stands for the Open Web Application Security. I don't remember the full acronym, but they have...
It's the Open Source Foundation. No, I'm looking for it as well.
Yeah.
Don't worry, I will get it.
There is a Toronto...
Open Worldwide Application Security Project.
There you go.
Open Web Application. Okay, so there is a local chapter in Toronto. I'd say I'd recommend to the student at Seneca to sign up. You can attend in person, you can attend online. Every month they have they have a meeting every month and they discuss topics in security, and they vary, right? They can be related to software security and application security, or they can be related to, you know, the visit that or the DEF CON conference that they went to, right? Where there's a lot of white hat hackers that present new vulnerabilities and new attacks, right? Also, they have what's known as the collection of the vulnerable applications, right? And you can download them from their GitHub repo, and you can build them locally, and you can try to test them out with some free testing tools that OWASP offers, right? That would be something that would be very beneficial for students to try. They can even identify gaps, and because it's an open source project, they can contribute. They can contact the people there and request permission to contribute. So that, in my opinion, is one way to get into application security. Back in the day, we didn't have OWASP, right? So you would have to rely on previous experience to get into the field. But now things have changed completely. The internet has changed many things for us and opened new opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I just want to say that I was just chuckling because, yes, I started doing this before OWASP was founded. I am just reading that OWASP was founded in 2001, and I started doing this in 1986. So if we think again on the relevance of the topic or the concept, when we think of security as in other initiatives or disciplines within an organization, you have technology, processes, and people. In the technology layer, you will have the supporting or infrastructure technology that is basically operating systems and databases, management systems, and perhaps communications. And the other component, the other layer that is pretty relevant is applications. And I think that historically, when we started doing things on the security space in early 2000s, the majority of attacks and the majority of targets that bad actors were focusing their attention on were operating systems. Then it evolved into databases, and now it has evolved into applications. And something interesting to keep in mind, as Yaron was explaining as well, application security is something that is relevant not only for cybersecurity, but for software development as well. What I mean is, you may be a very passionate software developer that is not interested in developing a career on cybersecurity. Even with that, in order to be an effective software developer, I think you need to pay attention to security matters.
Yes.
It is something that is mandatory right now. One of the challenges that we have experienced as cybersecurity professionals is that in the past, software developers tend to be very focused only on timelines and project plans, when they have to deliver what they have to deliver. And anything that was in the way to impede for them or to prevent them from delivering on time was, of course, a stopper, and that was just rejected. And unfortunately, security was seen as those, or as an element that was acting like that for a long, long time, until it finally was embedded into the software development lifecycle. So I think that now is an imperative for software developers to think of security as a discipline they have to incorporate into what they do.
That's exactly one of the questions we had from one of the students. The question was about how, even if you don't want to become a cybersecurity professional, as a software developer, you need to be aware of the concepts, the OWASP top 10s, to produce a secure application. And at the same time, if you're a cybersecurity professional, you should be aware of the software disciplines.
Yeah, exactly. Even let me even expand that. I think that given the times we live in today, I think knowing about cybersecurity is a basic survival skill for any discipline. If you're a doctor, if you're an accountant, if you're a lawyer, I think that you need to understand how what you do is going to be impacted by information security. And of course, there will be different levels of skills and different needs for every single discipline, but I think that right now is something that we all need to do. Yeah.
We're going to clip that portion about how important cybersecurity is. We're going to put it on our Instagram and like the number one reason you need to study cybersecurity in 2024.
Yeah, we are even thinking of finding a way to go to young kids, children, because again, the thing is that now every single person has a device in their hands.
Yes.
Even kids. It is very common to parents today to hand an iPad or hand a tablet or hand a phone to their kids just to keep them entertained. I will not go into the details of how good or bad that is for children, because that can be another conversation. That can be a pretty interesting one, but that happens. And in the end, you have a young kid that is using an electronic device that is powerful enough to do whatever we can think of. So that means that even in the heart of our families, we need to have some sort of cybersecurity.
We skipped over the introductions. Can you introduce yourselves?
Sure.
Like what your background is, what your position is right now, a brief introduction of what you do right now. We can start off with you.
Yeah, sure. My name is, do you want me to look at you or to look at the camera or whatever? Whatever you say to me is fine.
I don't know.
Looking at you? Okay.
Which one you prefer?
So my name is Carlos Chalico. I am a partner with EY. I have been with the firm for a little bit more than 22 years. Started my career in 1986 in Mexico City. The math made no work, and the reason for that is that I left EY in 2012 to move to Canada. I was working for a couple of other companies before coming back to EY in 2018. I have always been doing IT risk management, IT audit, IT governance, then cybersecurity, then privacy. And what I am doing right now for the firm is helping clients on cybersecurity and privacy challenges in the country and in some other countries that we have been connected to, like the Caribbean, Mexico, and some others. And in addition to that, I teach cybersecurity and privacy as well. And I think that's all I can share about me.
Thank you very much.
No, thank you.
How about you, Yaron?
All right. So my name is Yaron Gudes, and I joined the company about 6 months ago. So I'm a recent joiner. Prior to that, I worked at CIBC for 2 years. Prior to that, I worked at a company called Dayforce, and it's a software company. Before that, I worked at BMO for about 11 years, and I focused on security assessments. So my career actually started in 2000 after I graduated from the University of Victoria. I studied computer science and math, and I went straight to work as a software developer. And as I mentioned earlier, my wife told me in 2006 that I should write the CISSP and move to the field of information security, as it was called back then, not the term cybersecurity that we all know today. And that's what I have been doing. But again, with every 5 years, some kind of change changed in the industry, forced me to reinvent myself. Mm-hmm. And so I've gradually become a specialist in application security. It didn't happen immediately. I started from the basic in cybersecurity, which is risk assessments, right? And risk management concept, and that's something that the banks are very, very big on, and it is very important. But I always thought that testing the applications with some tools is more useful than just doing an assessment and doing the check mark next to the question, right? So yeah, and that's what made me move from the bank to a software company to specialize on SaaS security. And it also made me realize that I wasn't a good fit for the bank anymore. And after spending 2 years at CIBC, I was completely convinced that I need a much faster environment, and that's when I moved to EY, which actually fulfilled my needs, because things at EY are extremely fast. We work on an engagement. It can be 8 to 10 weeks, and you work with a group, you finish the project, and then 2 weeks later you have another project. Things very, very fast, which is something that I find very attractive. And yeah, that's probably what I can say about my career. I've been around, I've seen many, many changes, and if I have to give a message to the young generation is be a lifelong learner, accept change, and specialize.
Specialize.
It's very important. Employers are looking for this. So.
Yeah, thank you very much. The thing is, you both cybersecurity specialists. We are having this interview about cybersecurity, but we are in EY. You work for EY, and when you look up EY on the internet, it doesn't say cybersecurity, and we've talked about this a little bit before the interview. The 4 divisions that pop up are assurance, consulting, tax, and strategy and transactions packaged into one. So how does cybersecurity, what are we doing here about cybersecurity? How does that fall under the umbrella of EY?
Yeah, there's 4 verticals. You're absolutely right when it comes to client-facing services. Within consulting, we have 3 subdivisions. One of them is called technology consulting, another one is business consulting, and the third one is risk consulting. Within technology consulting, we have different, I will say, specializations, and one of them is cybersecurity. So cybersecurity is one of the specialty practices that we have within consulting.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, quick answer to that question. Cool. I have a student question that I think it would be, I really wanted to ask this one. This comes from Kevin, and he was asking, how will quantum computing transform cybersecurity infrastructure?
That's a good question. It is. Please feel free to jump in whenever you want, Yaron. But it is expected to definitely challenge the industry. The issue or the fact that we will be having computers that are able to execute processing activities or compute much faster than the ones we have today is going to be shaking many of the encryption protocols that we are using today. Because instead of presenting a challenge that will last years for someone with one of the computers we have today to break a key, once you have quantum, that is something that you will be able to do in seconds. So it is of course something that we will need to start working on. I would say right now, and the firm is already working on that in order to start developing what we need to do for quantum. There's something that is called the Q day, which is supposed to be the day when quantum computing is going to be adopted, and then you need to start thinking backwards. What are the actions that you need to execute in order to be ready for that Q day, which is when quantum is finally going to be adopted. So it's something that is hard to predict, because I think that the market is going to be just evolving on the development of this type of technology and the devices that will be using quantum. But I think that once we have it and once it is commercial, the challenges for cybersecurity are going to be interesting. And on the other hand, the opportunities will be attractive as well.
We have the same topic as Q Day you mentioned in AI as well, singularity, the day that AI becomes so prominent. But you mentioned like how with the, and you can answer this one, how with advancements of quantum computing, we have to rethink what we do. But in the past, as computers have become faster, one of the simplest solutions was just increase the length of the key from 126 to 256.
Yeah.
Do you think that's kind of an answer? Okay, just double the size of the length. That would be enough to address this issue?
So when you add 1 bit, it becomes twice as big, right? with quantum computing, there is this concept of crypto shattering. So all the algorithms will immediately shatter, like in class, you throw on the ground, it shatters, right? That's what quantum computing will do to the existing algorithms like RSA, Diffie-Hellman.
Mm-hmm.
These are the algorithms that are foundational to internet security for e-commerce, right? When the day comes and quantum computing is commercial, and the industry have not thought about building new quantum algorithms that are quantum proof, I don't want to be around because nothing will be secure anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right now, as you know, TLS 1.3 is not unbreakable. That is the recent protocol, but if we had quantum today, it would be broken in a matter of seconds.
So it's not more of a making an adjustment to what we already have, it's more of a coming up with a whole new system.
Completely new cryptographic algorithms and schemas that have to be resistant to quantum attacks, right?
Yeah.
We're not there yet, but I think within the next 5 to 10 years, we'll start to see this.
If I remember correctly, the way that the Diffie-Hellman algorithm became so prominent was that there was an open competition for people to submit what they think would be a good way to address the issues back then.
Yeah.
Do you think like something similar, maybe EI can put a reward of like $1 million for whoever can come up with a solution to quantum computing? And one of our Seneca students could answer that question.
Well, if we have the specialities, for sure. I know that every large organization, the banks in Canada are working on this. They've all started to have innovation hubs, right? TD has an innovation hub, and they have students in Waterloo that are working on quantum problems, right? CIBC has an innovation hub. So this is something that the industry is trying to catch up with. So I don't know, I'm not part of this, but I know that they are preparing for this.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you when it will happen, but
Yeah, and just complementing what Yaron was saying and in alignment with what you asked as well. Yes, of course, I think that presenting these challenges to the community is something that can be very effective. And as you said, who knows, maybe we can have a Seneca student helping us find the answer to
If you open the competition, I'm pretty sure we have some bright talents over there.
Cool.
I know you have another meeting you need to attend to. Any finishing remarks?
No, just thank you for this opportunity. It's been great, and I hope it's the first of more. So if at any point you need to have us again, or have a different group of specialists to talk to your students on cybersecurity challenges, benefits, and all of that, more than happy to do so. So thank you.
Yes, definitely.
It's been great.
Thank you very much. Let's hope the sound is good.
That camera died like 5 minutes ago. So I started recording with this. You're too good.
Am I?
No, like it's weird. It's weird.
How is it weird? Come over here, man. Check that.
Why am I not recording, bro?
Bring up the
I think
bring up everything. We need to record this.
Thing you need to.
How are we feeling today, sir?
feeling pretty good.
That's it. So,
It's upstairs. Oh.
why?
Oh wow.
Small building, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go.
Alright. Goodness gracious. We gotta go back. Alright. Arian got us lost. He don't know the way. This man.
You didn't know the way either, so don't blame it
This
on
man
me.
ain't serious. Goodness gracious. That's tough.
For you?
I appreciate you, sir. Goodness gracious.
Good to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you, sir.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Yes, sir. Oh my goodness.
40th floor.
Oh my gosh. Wow, okay. Damn.
615 West.
The CN Tower.
Oh my goodness.
Go ahead.
Thank you, sir.
Taxation and legal advice. So
Nice to meet you.
Good seeing you.
Pleasure to meet you, sir.
Nice pleasure to meet you as well.
how are you?
So then which one?
This one.
This one right across us.
That's the source building.
That's where they
Yeah.
shot suits?
Yes. You mean to charge again?
No, to uncharge.
To uncharge.
Still 5 hours. As I mentioned earlier, it was
5 hours of pen and paper.
yeah. And
Yeah.
one problem that I had, I shifted the column, so
You can just ask for the code to be reopened,
Mhm.
and you can move the hours of your.
because I keep getting the system email.
Uh-huh.
You know Nick Visioli,
Uh-huh.
so we worked on
Uh-huh.
3 weeks before the end. We all